I am so excited to have another rock star on my show, another believer, and I don't have a problem saying it. Let me tell you this, it's always about learning something, and it's always about things being cyclical and they tie into each other. So, Steve Spellman has just found a way to let paths intersect and been kind enough to come tell us about it.
Yeah. So you and I have been intersecting, as you say, in the community here. I met you one place, like, oh, hey, how you doing? Then, wait, I saw you over there too. Like, wait a minute, different worlds overcrossing. And then I think the third or fourth time we ran into each other in the course of the weeks, like, we need to talk.
Yes.
So it kind of led to this conversation, which is a passion of mine and interest of yours. So I'm glad to be here.
I'm so excited too, because this man has a wealth of financial knowledge, and money is a protection. It is. And sometimes we need to lean on it, but we never need to overconsume, which I think we'll talk about, and just waste it. But a lot of people don't know the importance of retirement. We don't want to end up on Social Security. It's not enough for us to take care of ourselves. And before we started, we were kind of talking about how you would go into a room to talk about finances and maybe the levels. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so one of the things I've got to do over the years is help small businesses and medium-sized businesses with their retirement plan. So 401k or something like that. So I'm talking to the employer about what they want to set up and offer their employees, and they put some money in for people that can save from their own paychecks, and get to also educate employees too.
Yeah.
So sometimes in a group setting, they'll seminar with a dozen or 20 people and kind of give the basics of things, and people kind of do Q&A sort of thing. But really the rubber meets the road is sometimes get a chance to meet individually with people, kind of a one-on-one in a room like this, and we're across the table and we got maybe 10 or 15 minutes that the person has between breaks and stuff.
Yeah.
And I try to get a sense of the employee population at the employer, but sometimes, a lot of times, people are coming from all different points of view.
That's right.
And you think, oh, I'm saving for retirement. People got, some people like, they just want to jump to, well, what's the investment options? Or I'm going to save on taxes. Like, oh, okay, well, I can dig into that.
Right.
Or, hey, am I on track? Am I doing the right thing? Do I understand this right? Oh, okay. And then some people, I'll give an example later of, I really don't know the first thing. I don't know what this is. I've heard Social Security and 401 something, and what is this? And it's like, oh, okay, well, good. Well, let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
And so really, just I would say to listeners there, where are you at?
That's right.
Where are you at now? And what's one step that the time that we have here together, that maybe you can collect and say, hey, I can apply that to my life. Maybe something to fix that's going wrong, something to get on track, or maybe to take one step forward. And just one thing, I don't have a magic wand for you. There's a lot of financial commentators that are kind of full baloney.
Yeah.
And they got an angle, or they got something to sell, and we should get real.
Absolutely.
We should get real where people are.
Absolutely. And I feel like a lot of that is shame. Like, I don't know. And if I'm not knowledgeable about something, I don't feel good about going to talk to someone about it. So let me tell you, Steve is super personable, super welcoming.
Well, that's very nice.
That's true. And I would hope that there's a Steve at your local bank or your local financial institution, someone that is willing to take the time and kind of walk you through the process and meet you where you're at. Because I feel like, and I don't know if this is true, do you feel like a lot of people are intimidated to have conversations about money?
Yeah, I think so. It's a little like what you're saying. It's kind of like going to the doctor a little bit. Like, oh, this and that, or, I don't want to tell them that I'm not eating my vegetables, or I'm not doing my exercises, or, and some people, again, they're coming from different points of view, and some of that's personal, and some of that's family history. Some of that's the community somebody lives in, their income level or other things. It's okay. And again, everybody needs to eat.
Say it one more time. It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay wherever you're at.
Tito Guerrero, thank you for tuning in. I just want to go and check that out. I appreciate you for listening. And if you want to throw something in the chat, we're going to go ahead and look at it periodically, just in case you have any type of question, and I just appreciate you tuning in, because guess what? It's all about learning something. And it's about putting whatever shame you have from whatever background, whatever's going on with you, to the side, so we can ultimately we all want to be successful in our path in life. Yeah. So when these conversations are happening and you've got the guy that's like, hey, where can I invest? And then you've got the lady who maybe has small kids and doesn't know how much she can invest. How do you set that appointment? What do you call your banker? Like, hey.
If you have a connection with somebody at an existing financial organization, a lot of times somebody they know, a friend of a friend, like, yeah, I heard they're in that, and they kind of go that way. A lot of people, though, a lot of Americans don't really have access to financial advice.
That's true.
And a lot of times it's at their employer. The retirement plan provider is, for a lot of working Americans, their best chance of getting any financial advice at all, looking online or TV or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's really a place to start if you have resources, through that, or somebody or again, an existing financial organization you might have a relationship with.
Okay, well, Steve, what do you do in your everyday banking career?
So just kind of what I do as a job.
Yeah, relationships.
Yeah. So I get to again help folks with retirement plans and so forth. For about 15 years or more, I focus on a lot of individual clients as well. So a lot of folks that maybe had saved over the years, retired, they're kind of living on that and managing that sort of thing. It tended to be older, above average income folks. But I like really the mix of different interactions that I can have and get a chance to interact in the community as well.
Absolutely.
Where there's corporate executives run into the politicians,
little me,
podcast folks that people that have a dramatic story that are on track and turn their life around and doing I can't even keep track of all the things you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. That's
great.
That's a compliment.
So just having a mix of people, that's what I like. And again, wherever I can add value to somebody's life, again, where they're at. I mean, I can come up with charts and statistics and economic news and whatever. Somebody's like, I don't even know what that is.
Right.
Or that's not where I'm at. Or okay, that's interesting, but what's that mean to me? And being able to communicate on people's level is something that motivates me.
Well, very nice, because I want to lead into perspective. Okay. And we were talking about consumerism, and it's a big thing now because, a lot of people look at unrealistic depictions of wealth. Do you want to talk a little bit about those unrealistic depictions of wealth? We had a conversation about cars, and whether or not you need to go invest in that new car. You want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's really kind of what do you want to be? What do you get happiness from? There's so many messages. I see statistics about how many marketing messages we get pinged at all the time on your phone, on the thing, the radio, whatever, the side screen of whatever online screen you're looking at right now, all over the place. And so there's no lack of opportunities to buy something.
That's right.
And really, it comes down to a number of things, but also just needs versus wants.
Needs versus wants.
What do you need?
We used to call it keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Keeping up with the Joneses. They've got a Mercedes, so we need a Mercedes.
Right. Yeah. And so somebody with a Mercedes, they might be doing well, and they might not be. They may have overextended themselves. And so I wouldn't, the old don't judge a book by its cover sort of deal. Don't think you need that. Well, somebody like me and they've got that. Well, they might be in a bad financial place because they overreached. And you want to do that?
Right.
And what's normal in our society? Look what's normal. People overextended,
overspending,
going into debt and so forth. They're stressed in their life. It affects relationships too. If you're stressed financially, that can stress personal relationships. It's a common thing and so forth. And you feel like you're keeping up with the Joneses and overextending yourself. It's going to run into problems. And if being normal is being crazy, do you want to be normal? And just getting out of that loop and like, what do I need for now? What can I afford? If there's some nice shirt or something that you want to go get and you can afford it, well, I'm not going to argue. But if you can't, and do you have enough shirts already? I've been there as well. It's like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Like, and you plop $200 on stuff that was entertainment
or
eating out. If you afford to eat out, great. That's nice. But if you can't, maybe you need to brown bag it.
Here's a terrible story from my
yeah.
past. Okay, so I didn't grow up with financial literacy,
Mhm.
and I remember getting some income tax back. So I went to the mall and bought a gold chain with a money sign on it and an Adidas outfit from head to toe.
Okay.
Okay, so here I've spent $500 at the mall,
Okay.
which I could have easily put in so many other different locations. I had a terrible car. It was probably going to need repair, most likely, or break down right after this happens. And I feel like this is the mindset, even though, you know, I'm 40. So this was 25, 26 years ago. I feel like there's a lot of kids out there going to the mall as soon as they get some money and buying a gold chain and an Adidas outfit. Adidas, you know what I'm saying? Hey, check this out. Regardless, though, how do we change that mindset for our kids? That, hey, you know what? It's never too soon to start investing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, and I gave you a framework sort of thing. If people are familiar with the
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, if you've ever taken like a psychology class, there's this chart. I printed it out here, but you know, it's basically the basics. You know, do you have a roof over your head? You know, are you breathing?
Yeah.
You know, do you have a shirt on your back?
Do you feel good about yourself?
Yeah. And then it goes from like safety and security. You know, do you have a steady job? Do you have relationships? Love and belonging. So you have friends and family. You feel like you're doing okay.
Yeah.
There's self-esteem. So you have confidence in yourself. You feel like you can be an individual. And then there's self-actualization, which is like the peak of the mountain, which most people don't get to, but that's like you're living your best life sort of thing. You feel like you're living with purpose and so forth. And I saw a chart that I like that shared with you, the hierarchy of financial needs.
Yeah.
And so you kind of take the basics up to, you know, more advanced. And at the bottom of that's kind of more basic needs and cash flow.
That's your liquid funds.
Right.
Yeah, so, your bank account, not your savings.
Right. So can you cover your daily expenses, food and housing and stuff? You're paying your bills. Then there's financial security. So do you have like an emergency fund if you hit a bump in the road? Right.
Absolutely.
Insurance, you know, both medical and auto and things like that. And then kind of go up the way, accumulating wealth. So you kind of got a good baseline. Like you feel like you're stable, and then you start to kind of take a step ahead. And that's things like, you know, paying down debt, maybe starting to save for retirement, things like that. Next up is financial freedom. We're like, hey, you know, I feel like, you know, I can afford to do some things that I want that are really enjoyable in life.
Vacations.
Yeah, taking the vacation you put off, or saving for your kids' college. That your retirement, like I feel secure in that. Like I'm saving enough. Like I think I'm going to be okay and comfortable. And then there's at the top of the mountain is legacy, where like, you know what, I've got my stuff taken care of. What about the next generation?
Now let me interject real quick. I feel like a lot of people are jumping right from the bottom. From basic needs met to self-actualization,
or want to be financial freedom,
or to like, financial
freedom.
What
I want to do is like, well, if you can't cover your bills and you're building up you know, credit card debt, you know, hey, go back to square one.
And what is the amount? What's the amount that's going to knock out the average American family? The disaster amount.
Yeah, some statistics that made the news, like $400.
That's it.
About over a third of Americans don't have that. So you hit a big pothole and you need a car repair unexpected, or a medical expense, which I run into just recently. The fridge dies. Okay. Stuff, you know, life happens. You know, there's bumps in the road, and you know, $400 or $500 or $1,000 will cover a good number of bumps in the road.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're stressed, like living paycheck to paycheck, which more and more Americans are because of the cost of living and everything like that, having a cushion just gives a person security. It's a very practical thing.
Yeah.
But also it can eliminate some of the worry that you have. Oh gosh, another bill's come in the mail. Do I have that? And if you've got a cushion that you built up because you may be underconsumed, that's unnormal from the rest of society, the way that they're going.
Yeah.
That's going to help you in so many ways.
And that's just step two. Step two is financial safety. So once those basic needs are met, we don't jump to financial freedom. That's the mentality.
Maybe you start living a little, but not large. Okay.
And that's the mentality because, you know, you want to go out to eat, you want to do all these things. And we talked a little bit about how did our grandparents live in the Depression era. Okay. So my grandparents, They were from the South, and my grandma put things on the line, even though she did eventually have a dryer just because she liked going out there, I think.
Right.
However, I remember this. We never went to fast food restaurants. Like maybe once or twice we went, you know, not
it
even.
It was a special event.
It was.
Yeah,
it was. Like
everyday
we went to
purpose.
you went to school and told your friends you went to McDonald's that night. You know, like serious. So if we're going to emulate some of these behaviors, they're going to keep us financially safe.
Yeah.
Tell us what are some of the things we need to be doing.
Yeah. So my mom grew up north of here, family farm in Iowa. So
in Missouri,
my grandparents were family farmers, and nobody ever went without, but they weren't living high on the hog either. And they had a huge garden, and they had chickens and all this stuff. And you know what? When they left a room, they turned the light off.
There you go.
And in the winter, they put the thermostat down. Everybody wore a sweater. And I don't know if they had air conditioning till later. That was a thing. But when they did, it was, you know, basically
it had to be blazing. It was like outside.
80, and they took the humidity out of the deal.
Yeah.
So it went like 72 and all this, like we have a meat locker in some of these offices and stuff. And, you know, putting clothes out on the line because running a dryer is expensive.
Yeah.
And owning one is expensive. And, you know, when they went to shop, when they went to live in the country, and so they went to the county seat, the town, they had the grocery stores, and they went on Saturday, and they looked through all the ad papers. And this store's got the 3 things we're going to get here. And here's where we're going to get our essentials that has the best deals here. And we're going to go to this other store on the other side of town because they got a sale on meat.
Right.
And they got another thing. And, they've got a real great sale on this. We're going to buy a case of cans of those. And they'd stock up their pantry. So they were smart consumers. Their income coming in maybe wasn't great. But, boy, they maximized their dollars. They economized. They were frugal and so forth. And, you know, your household income, you know, is money coming in and money going out.
Yeah.
And boy, well, I just wish I made more and then I could do better. Well, you know, that's a longer term thing. But if you can reduce your expenses, regardless of what your income's doing, you're going to be better off. It's going to give you a better foundation ongoing, and you're going to be able to build wealth that way. Because if you're blowing out, you run into more and more debt month to month. You know, how are you going to get ahead? How are you going to have a stable, you know, thing for the next generation, or your own retirement, or if you hit a bump in the road, having some security, a savings, lose a job, health calamity, you know, have a cushion. You know, life happens, and you know, consuming and living a little. I'm not going to argue against that, but you know, living large when you can't afford it. Hey, you know.
I also feel like a lot of people don't know where their money goes. Have you ever encountered that? They don't know because they don't have a strong budget. Or they haven't set goals. And a lot of times we set up these things. Now, I don't have a lot of those channels, but Netflix, Hulu, Sling, and they have all these things coming out and they add up.
Spending on autopilot. That is a thing.
Okay. I never heard that term, but that's right. Thing. Yeah. You have all of these automatic withdrawals and you're not tracking your expenses. Yeah. Now, I track my expenses and I have a strong budget because everybody knows I had years to think about how I was going to live this life. So, and you cannot be in the red. Your expenses cannot exceed the amount that you're making. So when you sit down and you talk to somebody and maybe they're established or maybe they're working on being established, do you ever encounter someone who doesn't know where their money's really going?
I think that's normal.
Okay.
I think that's normal across income levels, across demographics. Just, you know, the culture is, you know, it's not as a formal budget. I don't know what percentage of people have that. I think it's a pretty small minority of households.
Do you have a budget?
It's more informal than I'd like it to be.
Yeah, yeah, and
keep track of things. But you know, am I writing out everything and itemizing? You know, that's a thing. If you want to get ahead of the game, you can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna be better off than most people. But you know, so a lot of people like, you know, again, going in consumer debt and things like that. We're doing okay that way. I could be more organized that way.
And this is coming from a man in the banking industry. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you got to start somewhere. Would you agree? Yeah. So you get those basic needs met. And I just feel like this too. Are your kids knowledgeable about finances?
Overall?
Whatever you learn, you've got to trickle that down. And I remember I saw a Dave Ramsey video, and I had the book and was going through it. And I told my son, because he was having some problems with money management, put $100 in your pocket or $50 and use that cash, because a lot of people don't know this. This is Dave Ramsey. It's not me.
Yeah.
That friction. When you swipe that card, you're just swiping. You're just swiping.
It doesn't seem like real money. And if you can handle that, okay. If using plastic is convenience and it's under control, but again, people that like, hey, my finances are out of control, that you know what? If you pull a dollar bill, like that feels like something, and you're popping out 20, 40, 60. Wait a minute, what do I have to do to earn that? And swipe, it's $68, it's 84, it's 102. I don't know. And then the credit card bill comes like, oh,
like
how'd that happen? Like, well, it's a psychological thing. And so just know yourself. And if going to cash for some purchases, that works for you, God bless you. Great.
Yeah. Because let me tell you this, just like you said, it doesn't feel real. It's like fake. And it's a line of credit. It's a line of credit. Just because it's a line of credit doesn't mean you don't have to pay it back, or that your credit is not going to be severely hit because you've increased that 30% utilization. People don't know about that. You shouldn't use 30. You should ideally, I feel like, go for 15% of utilization on a credit card. Now, credit. Can you tell us a little bit about credit? Because a lot of people don't know the power of credit. Score.
Oh, the credit score. Yeah. So, there's financial institutions, whether it's a credit card or a bank making loan, or you're going to get a mortgage or a car loan or things like that, they might not know you personally. Our society, people don't know each other. And so basically your financial history kind of gets bundled up, and there's these places that make a credit score. And it goes from, 200-300 or something, to 850,
900, something.
850. Yeah. And that number might not mean anything, but it does. The higher it is, the better. And basically, do you pay your bills? That's a top thing. There's, do you have a history of, if you had a loan, do you pay it back?
Right.
Based on your income, do you have a lot of debt outstanding? Like, ooh. Yeah. And like, if we were to deal with each other, and I said, Sarita, I could use a loan because I need a thing, and you're like, well, how much do you owe on other stuff already? And did you pay back your friend?
I wouldn't ask Steve that. I would give him the money.
Yeah, because we would trust each other.
Yes.
And if you don't have trust in, modern economy and so forth, that's the way to do it. So building up that credit score for, future borrowing opportunities. Like you mentioned Dave Ramsey and so forth. And I'm
a firm believer.
Yeah, I think he's great. He has kind of an
anti-credit score. Sort of, I don't.
Well, anti-borrowing sort of thing. People can get out of hand. Borrowing for your education, like that's valuable, and you borrow some for that and pay back. Okay, not everybody has a couple $100,000 laying around to buy a house.
Absolutely.
So buying a house is a decent thing. That's a good thing to do, and you borrow money to do that, and you pay it back. Okay, great. A car, well, you could build up cash to buy a car first, but if you need a car, and you need to borrow some money, just to be careful. But having credit card debt, I use a credit card for a payment. I pay it off every month. It's the equivalent of writing a check as far as we go. It's just one big check that bundles up at the end of the month. But if you're carrying a balance on that, the interest rate
about 28%.
It's always been high, and now it's even higher in the last couple of years. And so consumer debt, that's the one to be careful of, and try to avoid if you can. If that's what you need to get over a hump, rather than worse other options, temporarily, maybe so. But, there's good reasons to borrow money. And then there's,
not so good
overspending, and it can become a problem. And that's where people really get into trouble, like the payday loan business.
Oh man, don't ever do that.
All of that. It's tough. So,
and here's the thing, they will send you all of the applications, and they will send them to you, and they want you to, take and then as soon as you start taking those loans, they're not going to send you anything else, because you've got yourself mired down now, and we're going to see what you do with it. Would you agree?
Yeah. Like there's plenty of things to buy. There's plenty of options to people, communications, like, hey, buy this, buy this, buy this. And I go, a lot of those things sound good. And again, to have a credit card isn't a bad thing. To have a payment card or things like that. But having a bunch of them, a maximum amount, people
Right.
get off the rails.
Well, I like at the top of the hierarchy that he has, that is basically a hierarchy of financial needs, is legacy. And even if you don't have little guys or anyone that's going to grow up and tap into your wealth, you could always, look towards philanthropic giving back to the community, which I feel like is always a robust plan to give back to, the community or wherever you'd like to, just to, make a difference. However, I feel like the average man that is just trying to make it by, if I were to, go on the many various apps, I know there's like a Fidelity app, and there, would you recommend for someone that's trying to, build something, maybe they don't feel like they have enough to go to a banker? Acorn, there's all these little things out there. I don't know much about them. Do you?
There's various offerings, and those can be helpful. Just my experience, both professionally and personally, just having a local organization that is where you are, I think is really valuable. They're a member of the community like you are.
Yeah.
That it's going to be one of the better interactions.
Right.
I think overall, you think, well, I can get a cheaper deal on the online, something or other. Like, well, what kind of service are you going to get?
Right.
And that might work for a while and be slick, but then you actually need something. And I run into that quite a bit. Somebody's done, I've done online banking, online investments. It's like, well, how do you know when to change something?
That's true.
I don't know. You're on your own.
That's
true.
And
so you say, well, I'm not paying anything. Well, you might not be getting anything. And I like the idea of a local community bank. That's where I work. And I've worked at a couple places, and I think that interaction, that makes most sense to me. I find value in that, and that's what I advocate for.
Well, I also advocate for banks that I can walk into and have a conversation, that one-on-one, and not feel shame-based because, hey, I can do $200 a month. I don't know if it's going anywhere, but hopefully in 18 years, if I'm able to, 18 years, $100 twice a month, you should have $100,000 after 18 years. That is a plan. However, you always want to increase that. You always want to do something. So for the person that doesn't have a lot, find someone that's willing to listen, or ask a friend. Ask a friend. I really feel that a lot of things that people don't feel comfortable asking, someone that, I'm going to go set an appointment and ask, it's easier to, meet someone. So you don't recommend online apps, which I can understand, especially because you're so good at what you do.
That can work if you find value in that, but just, realize the trade-off.
Okay. Well, we talked about a lot of awesome things. Tell us how to grow some wealth real quick on the way out.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Tell us right now. Where do we get the money? Tell us where we get the money.
Again, just watching, your income and your expenses. Over time, just your earning potential, doing the highest and best thing you can with your labor in your life. Pursue that. It's not overnight, but also, you have some control over your day-to-day expenses.
Right.
You have a lot of discretionary purchase, going out to eat, the Netflix and the Hulu and the 6 different things that you build. Like, 6 of those. Could do with 2 or 3 or 1 or whatever. Just trimming that back, being a smart consumer. When you go into the store, making a purchasing decision, that you're in control of the deal, rather than, oh, that looks good, or that's a shiny package, and then your money disappeared out of your pocket. That can happen. And, just thinking about, hey, things are going good now, but what if extra expenses come along? And having a savings account, and building up $400, $1,000, a few months of savings, because who knows what life happens? Lose a job or disability, or lose a loved one or something. You don't know. Just having that sense of security and a cushion. And people look at the stock market and think about the hot stocks and things like that. And, that sounds pretty exciting, but there's, risk to picking one thing or day trading things. And just having a long-term plan for when you need that money. And, retirement, you mentioned before, Social Security is a baseline, but you've got to save some for yourself if you're going to, live how you would expect in retirement when, you're no longer working and have that paycheck to pay your bills.
Absolutely.
And just something reasonable there, but really just having financial security, having some savings, and really thinking longer term. It's like, okay, are you over that hump? And then what's the purpose? And, that investment be reasonable for when you need the money and what risk you're comfortable with.
Absolutely. So build a steady foundation. Make sure your basic needs are met.
Yeah, don't put the cart before the horse.
Don't
get ahead of your skis or whatever.
Yeah. And then you definitely want to make sure that you've got a savings, you've got a pad. Then you need to start making that money work for you.
That's right.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that next time. But let me tell you, moral of the story, don't get a $500 Adidas outfit and a gold chain. All right. Steve, I want to thank you so much for coming today, and I appreciate it. So, Steve, before we go, when are you coming back to teach us more about financial literacy?
Whenever you like.
All right.
We'll have some more fun.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Sarita Talks.